All right, we are live now on Facebook. Why don't you just start by telling everyone a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do?
Yeah, sweet. So my name's Aaron Gray. I guess I'm one of the founders of NoBS Marketplace, which is a marketplace which allows people to, I guess, connect with publishers in an easy way. And I guess we've been in this game for about 5 years now. I've been in the SEO game for around about 10 years now. All
So,
good.
so it is no BS, man. A lot of people are calling it knobs, but it is no BS. I'm assuming it's short for no bullshit.
Yeah, we actually tried to get no bullshit, but Google wouldn't let us run ads. So I had to shorten it. But yeah, so I always get that, like, they're like, are you knobs or something? Like, and especially Australians, they get real funny about it. I think Americans appreciate it a little bit more, but yeah, Australians don't have that sense of humor sometimes.
Americans are savages. So talk to me a little bit about how did you get into running a link building? Do you consider yourself an agency, a platform? I mean,
Look, we're definitely a marketplace. So, like, we originally, when we started, the main reason we actually started was that we actually had our own agency, and we got to a good size. And the issue we had was that we didn't really build links internally. We actually outsourced it a lot to other providers in the marketplace, and they just delivered shit.
yeah.
And that was about 5-6 years ago. So what happened was that we're like, well, why don't we just try and do it? And we did it ourselves. And then we got really efficient at it. So we built a massive team actually in the Philippines, and we still have a massive team in the Philippines. And we've also built out a massive team here in Australia. So we're just able to really get our systems right. Ironically, a lot of the systems we actually built, we actually learned from you. We just scaled them up on a much bigger scale. So, at the moment we sit at about 190 staff globally.
Wow.
And we're probably pumping out 5,000 plus links a month. And we'll probably double again over the next 12 months again.
And
So,
that's amazing. And it's funny. I always tell people that who are asking me about kind of how to get started. And we've all known how important links are in SEO for over a decade now. But as you alluded to, like, nobody's really been able to do it right. And for anyone watching, we pretty much use Aaron exclusively now for our link building for our clients. We're also recommending it to our people in the training industry. And the reason why I'm doing that, ironically, even though I have this training that's done so well and it teaches you how to do outreach, I'm actually pushing a lot of agencies away from doing outreach in-house because of how difficult. I mean, just today I saw a post on Search Engine Journal about how Google is now handing out penalties for guest post websites, right? Which I want to talk about a little bit. But, to me, it's just way too much. If you're trying to do SEO to also do link building, it's a service in and of itself, right? It's one of those things where I'm telling people that until you've gotten to a certain point revenue-wise and operationally, just outsource link building. Just find a partner that you can trust to deliver good links and get that shit off your plate because it's so much work.
yeah, and I couldn't agree more. And the other thing that I'm also finding is that even for like large agencies, like some of our biggest clients, they're doing hundreds of links every month. And the thing for them, right, is that they can just do it so much cheaper with us, and they're going to still pay the same price. Like, the way that our model works for people who don't know is that we charge a broker fee, which is $79, and then we charge whatever the publisher charges. We make no markup on the publisher. So if you get a publisher who's $500 or $50, I still make the same amount of money. And what we've actually found is that regardless if that person did it external or internal or with us, it's going to be the same price at the end of the day. And I think that's the thing that's appealing, is that you kind of remove that risk of having a large staff, making sure you're training that staff, and your systems work. They do work. Shit, that's why we're here, right? But I guess it's like, how much time do you spend on something like that that's not going to give you an ROI? And that's something that we work on. Like, we've used tech to be able to be as affordable as we are. We have 4 full-time developers now working on our platform because that allows us to be smarter and allows us to be faster, which gives us an ROI, which gives then our clients an ROI as well.
Yeah, I mean, I like to liken, I call it the PIA, the pain in the ass factor. And it's the same thing with content writing. Like, I've gone through this kind of evolution as an entrepreneur and understanding that focus is a superpower, right? Like focusing in on going deep on something as opposed to going wide. And with SEO, it's very easy to go wide and like chase shiny objects. Like, ooh, they want us to run ads. Like, ooh, they want us to do link building. And ooh, they want us to write content. Like, it's not worth it, man. If your core competency is SEO, that's how you're built. That's what you do. Just do the SEO, collect the most money for it, have better margins. And like, we will never write a piece of content because me and my business partner, we have a saying, it's kind of what we're instilling in the company now is we like to remove opinion from our services. We don't want to be in the business of having to convince someone, first of all, to work with us. And then second of all, that, hey, our work is X, Y, and Z. Like we want it to be black and white, keyword research done, technical SEO done. But when it comes to content writing and even link building too, you get some clients that are, SEO experts themselves, and they want to nitpick every link that you're spending so much time trying to build. So yes, number one, the profit margins on link building are not great unless you're doing like very high level, like what Siege Media does, like build an asset piece of content and do like PR style outreach. That's what I tell people. Like if you're going to do link building, you either, it's a race to the bottom trying to like beat prices from marketplaces like yourself, which you're going to get less quality links and you're going to be burning so many resources to get it done that it's just not worth it from a business point of view. But to me, it does make sense to do link building in-house. That's why I said once you get to the point where if you're building really good piece of content or that client has really good assets that you can use to go out and pitch journal, like real, more PR style outreach, then you can charge $1,000 plus per placement and it makes sense. But if you try to get stuck in the middle, you're fucked. It just doesn't work. And that's why I'm telling people, like, just get it off your plate, man. Do SEO and we expense all of your costs to the clients and they're happy to pay $150 to $200 for good links, which you guys deliver. And we don't have to do anything for it. Nothing. We're just collecting a management.
And I couldn't agree more. The other thing we actually are now starting to see a lot more in the US is we get consultants who come in, they'll set up their client's account and then actually the consultant will pick the sites and they'll actually charge them a fee for their time to review the websites. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, the client's still paying us directly. Yep. And the good thing of that is it's removing that need. And I always tell people, like, if you're selling a McDonald's meal as a fine dining restaurant, right, the client's eventually going to queue up to that and they're going to be pissed, right? Yep. And so many people think that clients are stupid, they're never going to work it out. But it's not about them as such. It can also be another agency. It can be another consultant who comes in and be like, that link's not worth $2,000. Like, why are you paying them $5,000 a month for a link? Yeah. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, and I think that SEO now has got to the point, there's so many people out there, everyone's trying to screw each other when they're trying to get new business, that, that solution that you can't really hide anymore and be able to get away with the things you got away with 5 and 10 years ago, because it's a $90 billion market now. There's a lot more competition. So you've got to be smart about it. So yeah, couldn't agree more.
So I want to talk, if you're comfortable, digging into your processes a little bit. I know everyone's curious about how you're delivering 5,000 plus links per month. So can you talk to me a little bit how your teams are structured? Like you mentioned some technology. Are you guys building something proprietary? Are you using a tool like Pitchbox? Like just kind of walk me through your process.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll start with, so our business is broken down into 3 major areas. So we have production, which is the actual production of the actual links. We then have publisher acquisition and management of publishers. And then we actually have paying clients. So that's like account managers and, our QC team. So the way that we work with our publisher section, I'll start with that because it's a little bit easier. So we actually use a hybrid system. We don't use Pitchbox just because of the volume of emails we use. We're kind of like at a point now where Pitchbox is just it's not cost effective for us. We use a hybrid of our own system. So we have our own prospecting tool that we've built. So we scrape Google, we scrape other people's websites to pick up, prospects to review. And then we actually use a lot of sales tools. So we actually used to use Pipedrive quite a bit. What we've found is that if you use an outreach tool, they're fuckers. They charge you so much money because it's an outreach tool, right? But I can get the exact same software as a sales tool. And because it's more a cluttered market, I get a much better rate and I get better tech. And it's weird. It's like, if you go have a wedding, they're going to charge you 20 grand for something that's really worth 5. And it's become that with PR. Like I saw a new PR tool the other day and it was like for 1,000 emails a month, they're going to charge $1,000. And it's just like,
Yeah.
why? Like, do I need to like bend over for you first? Like, it just doesn't make sense, right? Where with sales tools, right, because it's such a clustered market and there's so much competition, they really drop their prices and you get really good tech. So, Pipedrive's good. Another one that we've been playing around with, it's called Smart Reach. It's an Indian company, and they really focus on just the outreach component of it. So the same as like SEO, you can't do everything. They really focus on just getting really good deliverabilities and
Mhm.
really helping you with, they have really good built-in tools around testing your templates and making sure your emails aren't burnt and stuff like that. Like, we're doing literally hundreds of thousands of emails every month. The other good thing with us is that, and something that's helped us over the last 6 months, is that we've moved to this system of verifying our publishers. So we actually don't deal with brokers, guest contributors, or journalists even. So by doing that, we're actually building a reputation with publishers that we actually try and help them make money. So publishers, and this is something that I think our industry doesn't think about, right? At the end of the day, these publishers are businesses. They're trying to make money. And if we're not actually supporting them and making sure they're not doing stupid things, they're going to burn their sites, which means if they burn their sites, they burn my inventory. And by us helping them develop out, being smarter and not doing things like selling their posts for $20 or doing it for free, right? I know a lot of SEOs probably hate me for doing that, but at the end of the day, it makes this website shit, which then we all lose, right? SEO is not a free game. You've got to pay money to get in the game. So we try and educate them and we're trying to help them understand. We've come across a lot of weird cases. Like, we came across a website last week. The content manager was selling guest posts and pocketing the money. The company didn't know about it. We sent out a verification email. The guy got fired and now they're taking legal proceedings against him. And it's funny because everyone thinks it's fine for someone to do that. I think a lot of people forget that's illegal. You're actually making money out of something you don't own. And I think that as SEOs, we need to take responsibility for that. Like, the same as like, we don't work with journalists. We get on average probably 10 plus journalists a week who email us saying, hey, I have access to these websites. Do you want to pay me and I'll get your post, right? And look, I know a lot of people do that. The problem I have is that I deal with Fortune 500 companies. I can't take that risk that I'm putting someone's link on someone's website and I
Yeah.
don't have permission. Like, the US, they're trigger happy when it comes to lawsuits. I'm not in the mood to get sued. So, in the same way that a journalist should have journalist integrity as well. So it kind of gets a little bit blurred. And then we can also go into like, should these posts be sponsored and should they actually have labels on them? And look, that's a very gray area and we try and stay away from that. We allow the publisher to make that decision. So we've taken a very different approach with our publishers and it's really helped us grow a reputation with the publishers who actually like working with us. So that's that section. Our production is by far our biggest team. We actually run 100% of our own on our own tech. So the same platform that we actually use for our clients is the same platform that over 100 production staff use every day. So all our content processes are automated right down to every writer that we have in our app actually have a scoring system. They have a review system. So if a piece of content goes through, we have a full editorial team as well. That's why our content's so good because we don't just produce a piece of content and then send it out into the world. It's run through copy scrape. We run it through an actual editor who's worked for usually a newspaper or something like that. We then also run it through our own internal systems from like a scoring system. So looking at the tone, are they actually placing the links naturally? Are they doing authority links? Does it actually give context? Is it a good piece of article of content? So all of our writers go through HubSpot training so they understand how a good piece of content should be written, right? Because what's the point of getting a link if the content around it's shit? We can talk about that a little bit later. I'm a big believer in having a theme and having the contextual link in a smart spot, right? So we really use our tech to leverage that. And then that also feeds into how we deal with our publishers as well. Because, I think the worst thing that people can do is build a piece of content, send it to a publisher and be like, hey, I built this. It's a good piece of content. You should just take it. Why? Like, there's no reason to take that, right? And so what we do is we always do an actual custom pitch. So we look at the client's website, we look at the actual publisher's website, and we come up with a custom topic. And by doing that, it allows the publisher to win. And ultimately, I'm a big believer that the content you're producing should be ranking, right? Because I've seen so many cases where if a piece of content we put live and we build links to it, and that naturally starts to rank, the juice on that is just insane, right? It's
Yeah.
so much more powerful than a piece of content that no one's ever seen or no one links to, no one talks about, right? And I think that's just where Google's going. Google's getting smart at this shit. And you can't just do a shitty link. Like, don't get me wrong, I still think PBNs actually work to this day. I don't sell them, but they do work, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it works if you're actually making it look legitimate. And it's the same with what we're doing here. We're trying to get a placement that actually looks legitimate. So everything we do internally from our processes is to make sure that we're delivering quality every time. And, we have a review process. If someone has a complaint, I'd rather give them their money back than go through a process of them hating us. And by doing that, it's really worked well for us.
Yeah, you guys do have an amazing support team. You noted that you leave it up to the publisher to say whether they want to follow a link or, sponsored content. And you guys do a very good job of emailing us as customers saying, hey, want to let you know this publisher no follows links. Do you still want this, or should we cancel it and refund you? Which is awesome. Instead of letting the post go live and us being like, what the hell, dude, we didn't want that. So you guys do an amazing job of support. I want to dig back into prospecting a little bit. So you guys have built your own tech, right? You built your own crawlers, scrapers. Are you then having somebody manually review them? And are you doing this? So for example, you said that you're sending custom pitches per client, but I was under the impression that you guys are like building databases and then calling on that database when you sign a new client. Like, how does that work? Are you the prospecting is custom? And like, what does your kind of like review process look like when your prospectors are going through and reviewing your massive scrapes?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll start with the prospecting start of it. So when we're prospecting, we're not, because we're a marketplace, we're looking for anyone. So our pitches are actually quite generic, but the way that we actually pitch to most of these people is that we actually talk to them about who we are as a marketplace. So we actually do bring people on as an actual publisher in the marketplace, so a database that we can tap on at any point. But every time a client comes through and picks that publisher, it is a custom pitch back to that publisher. So we might already have their rates and everything on board. And look, a lot of these publishers we've done business with in the past, so we already have a relationship. But we do a new pitch every time. With onboarding and prospecting, the way that we go through it is that we usually use our scrapers to pull up our databases. Once we pull up the databases, they go through usually a 3-stage review process. First stage is we look for shit. So PBNs, guest posting farms, all of them, they get flagged. The thing is, because we're a marketplace, I don't tell people how to build links. In the sense, I don't tell them what is a good link, what's a bad link. So we might flag them internally. We usually actually don't put them out into the wild as such, but we still usually onboard them. So a normal agency would remove that shit, right? We don't. What we do is we bring them on board and then we keep an eye on them. So we actually have a database of literally, I think around at the moment, it's about 25,000 sites that are just shit metrics. Like, I mean, terrible, right? Now that could be right from a mummy blog who's just started out because they haven't had the time to build their authority. It could be a small list of a small database of PBNs. We don't use them. We don't usually let them into the marketplace. We might test out certain types of niches. So for example, if a site has bad metrics, but it might just be very localized. If I run a CBD oil site in Australia, for example, my traffic might not be that high as per Ahrefs. My metrics might not be that amazing, right? But it's still a good site and it's still very relevant to someone who's trying to rank for CBD oil in Australia, for example. So we try not to be too anal. We do definitely flag things like, we really try and avoid the whole right for us pages. And we actually have articles that we give to our publishers, like saying, hey, you shouldn't do this because most SEOs we work with won't touch that shit.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, that was basically what I saw today. Somebody posted in our Slack channel about how Search Engine Journal posted that Google is now penalizing sites that have right for us pages that are clear linking schemes. Run one post about like mechanics, another one about lawyers. You know what I'm saying? So so you mentioned that's something that you're looking at when you're reviewing? Are you pushing those out, or are you still just kind of letting them in and then selecting them on a case by case basis?
We're letting them in. We're actually, so in the marketplace, we actually have different tags or labels for publishers. We're actually going to be launching a new label in the next 6 months, which will actually allow people to know upfront if it has an obvious right for us page. We're also going through the process at the moment, because we go through a very heavy verification process with our publishers. We're looking at expanding that on to now reviewing their search console. So actually seeing if they have any manual actions. Because the thing for you and I and anyone who's building links, right, we could build that link, but we don't know if they've got a manual penalty, because it won't actually affect their site the other way. Their rankings won't drop.
Yeah.
Just the quality of their outbound links, right? I actually think the search engine in general, I think that article is kind of ironic, because we've been seeing that probably now going back 3 years. We run 5 websites at the moment that we're doing heavy testing on, having obvious right for us pages. We don't sell it in our marketplace. We sell it to other providers. And it's actually our way of learning how other providers deal with publishers, because then we know how to not deal with publishers. And we watched that, and we actually used one of our sites. We did lots of really heavily spammy anchors on it. So we allowed people to put any anchor text they wanted. That site got a manual action within, I think, 30 days. That was like, it was a manual action for outbound links, right? So we took any shit. So we opened it up to anyone, like literally burnt the site. And what we're trying to test is, what signals is Google looking for when they're giving out those actual manual penalties, right? Because the thing is that most of our publishers, most of them probably don't even know how to actually verify their site and actually even know what Webmaster Tools is, or whatever you want to call it nowadays. Like, those people just don't know. They're not in that space, right? They're not SEOs. So for us, we're trying to educate them, but we're also trying to look for that data point, or that point where it's actually like, shit, I crossed that line. I've done something dodgy now, and Google does penalize me. Because a lot of SEOs don't talk about it from that angle. They always talk about it as if the site tanks with its rankings, or if it's got really shitty spammy links. But it's starting to get more complex, because it's now an industry, and it's not just an industry because of people like us. There's actually an industry because, we have clients who have budgets of $100,000 on links a month. Kid you not, especially in the insurance space, that their link building budgets are insane. And they're actually the cause and the reason why there's more publishers now moving into this space and accepting paid payments, because it's something it's a revenue stream for them, right? Yeah. But the issue we've got, right, is that it's them pushing the price up. It's also kind of diluting some of these sites. So for us, we're trying to find sites that not everyone's going after. I'm actually finding nowadays that a DR, let's say 20 site, and just on the side note, I hate DR, but say DR 20 site, right? That's actually sometimes giving a bigger boost than say a DR 50, because everyone who ever starts link building is like, oh my God, I need to have the best link possible. And it has to be a DR 50 plus site. So those ones get trashed a lot faster than say a DR 20, but they might charge a little bit more. I'm calling them like a golden nugget. They're a golden site in the sense that they charge a reasonable price. They're very niche relevant, and they're super non-spam. They're not taking every guest post that comes to them. They're usually a little bit pickier with their topic approval as well. They're the sites I personally like buying links from, because I know I'm going to get a good link, and it gives me a good ROI too.
Quick question off the back of you said the clients that are spending $100,000 a month. Are you seeing that? Like, if that was you, do you think that's necessary? Do they need that much links? Is that too many links? Is that too much velocity? Like, what do those sites look like?
Yeah, God, yes. I can't mention names because
no, of course,
I have a lot of things, but anyone who does so companies, I don't know if it's a massive thing in the US, but especially here, you have companies that compare other providers and get a kickback. Especially in the insurance space, the way that they justify it, and I kid you not, we actually had a meeting with someone last year about this. They're like, we spend 30 million on AdWords a month, right? For me to go spend 100,000 on SEO a month, it's jack shit. It's nothing to them, right? That's their justification, right? And the SEO manager is like, I have to spend the budget or I lose it. Because I think that's what a lot of people don't understand, especially if you're in that smaller space, like smaller business space. You don't understand that with large, multi-billion-dollar companies, right? if you're running a department, if you have a budget, if you don't spend it, you lose it in the next quarter or the next year. So these guys don't care what they're getting. They just have to spend the budget or they lose it when they do need it. So it's starting to become this issue. Like we had a publisher the other day, like, I just sold a link for $5,000 and the client didn't care paying for it. They're like, I now want to start charging that. And it's just like, well, how many of them actually really exist? And I don't think you need, like, how could anyone spend $100,000 a month on links? It's just, it blows my mind. Like you would buy a lot of links for that. And how much shit would that be? Like for me, if I was doing that, I would be spending a lot more on content creation and engagement and building up things. Like I think a lot of people really forget building the fundamentals. Like you can build links, but if you don't have somewhere to link to, what's the point of building
Well,
links?
I guess that's what I'm trying to get at too. Is so an insurance site to me feels small, like 100 pages or less. Probably I don't know. I mean, I guess that like, so are you actually building that much links per month? I mean, you don't have to answer that directly, I guess, but like, I guess the big question is it working for them in terms of like a return on traffic? Not necessarily one-to-one in terms of, hey, they're investing 100, are they getting 100 back? But like, are they helping their websites from doing that much? Because it just feels unnatural. Like, you know what I mean?
It is, but I think the way that these guys do it, especially with the bigger ones, is they're going to like your News Corps of the world, right? And News Corp charges on average between $10,000 and $15,000 a link, right? But if you're getting on news.com.au or you're getting on some of their other sites and it doesn't have any sponsored labels on it, I kid you not, they still do that.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're eating into your budget real quick, right? So what a lot of them do is they usually put 50 grand into that high end stuff. And that will actually be a mix of both that high end quality stuff, but it might be a series. So what they'll do is they'll do like 5 articles. But see, this is where it starts getting real dodgy, is that they starting to do, it's like a form of reputation management, right? So what they're doing, like a good example I saw of this, and what we weren't involved so I can use it, is Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola did a campaign with News Corp a couple of years ago, right? They weren't talking about Coca-Cola. They were talking about how energy drink market's growing. And they were talking about, they got really heavily into the kombucha market. And they're talking about that. So they're doing positive press, right? And it's a hybrid between doing PR, because then when someone's talking about their overall niche, it's not about just their individual website. It's about the results someone's seen for that SERP, right? And that's where they're spending their 100 grand. Is that it's really what we're calling now a takeover. So it's you want to have from position 1 to position 10, you own it or you built it. We've got a client in the moment in the US that we're doing a beta test with, and literally they have position 1 to 5 they own. They're different websites, but they own them, right? In the sense that they created that content, they're creating the messaging, right? And that's the scary stuff that's starting to happen now. That 100,000 is not just about ranking your website. It's about changing opinions of search engines. And that's the creepy stuff that people don't realize it happens. And, I think as SEOs, we don't talk about it because it's really that top 1% of the world who are doing it. And no one really knows about it because no one talks about it. So, and I'm probably going to get yelled at for talking about it, but that's okay. But it's, I think that's a technique that a lot of people should start looking at. Like, it's not just about your website, it's about that messaging and the results that someone's getting, not just your page. And referral traffic as well comes back into that as well.
So you recommend that people, I guess in terms of a budget, just rough percentages, like if I was spending, 10,000 a month on links or 5,000 a month on links, whatever, you would suggest moving a portion of that budget to properties aside from my website that I could rank for what branded terms, best of terms. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, 100%. Because see, I have this theory, right? One of our hypotheses internally, and we're actually seeing agencies starting to do this, right? Is that they're now starting to look at EAT a lot more. And I think a lot of people, I think EAT has become the new buzzword at the moment. I personally think that EAT is something that it's not about your reputation on your website, it's about your reputation on the internet, right? Now, if you can control that more and you're building positive press across the whole internet, that's going to help you be able to get a better outcome long-term, right? So it's like about building reputation that's actually positive, but it's also pushing your own message. And if that might be that you rank for terms that you're already ranking for, but it might also be about, you know, pushing a concept. So we had an insurance company was releasing a new product in the US, and they wanted to make sure that that particular term was very positive. They didn't want any negative press. They have, because it's a term they've keyed themselves that they've actually taken over, they've got from position 1 to 30, they own every piece of content that's on that position, right? And what they're doing is they don't interlink with each other, right? But the scary shit is that everyone who talks about that new term now, when they go to search it, they're using those resources that they've built on other people's websites as their resource that they're using in their new blogs or their new articles. So even they're controlling the story before it even started. That's the cool stuff. So out of, you know, if we go back to the original question, so out of like 10,000, I think you should be building not only tiered link building, so actually building multiple tiers, but you should be looking at ranking your tier 1 and tier 2 placements for terms that can give you I guess, a net gain. So, you know, why not get referral traffic for something you're already spending money on? Like, the publisher's going to be happy with that. Yeah. Now, just on a side note, don't go out and be a dick and buy PBNs for a website you don't own. Like, I know a lot of people talk about that, but you don't own that website. And, you know, it's something that I had a publisher last week who was like distraughted because they were telling us their rankings had dropped. They couldn't work out why. They hadn't sold a lot of guest posts, but they'd sold a significant amount. And they're like, can you have a look? So we had a look at it. They had 4,500 PBN links pointing to their website.
Wow.
So every time someone had bought a link from a particular link provider they had loaded it up with tier 2 links of PBNs and niche edits and stuff like that, right? The site's trashed. Like, they got a manual action. They didn't even know they had a manual action. Like, so I guess that comes back to just having, I guess, etiquette. Like, don't burn the people you're working with because, you know, if that site gets burnt, your link's burnt as well. Like,
that's tough. That is tough. I mean, look at it. So you're saying basically if I write an article about no BS that you're going to build a bunch of quality links to our site, just tell me when to publish it. But
good. You can do that, and I'll give you as many links as you want.
But we had talked before a while back, and you were talking about tiered link building, right? So for people who don't know, tiered link building meaning you're building links to the sites where you're building links from, right?
Yeah.
So you guys have done a lot of testing in-house, correct? That's something that you've told me in the past still works well, because that's a very old school gray hat, black hat trick, tiered link building, just like loading up in GSA and firing away all sorts of shit at it. But can you walk us through what you would recommend right now if someone were to do tiered link building and why they should do that?
Yeah, definitely. So I've got actually a really big blog coming out about this. So we've gone with the term funnel link building or link funnels, right? So what you're trying to do is you need to tell a story. I think this is where a lot of SEOs go wrong, right? Is that back in the day, we used to do tier link building because we had multiple tiers of PBNs, right? You know, I used to do it. We all did it, right? And it worked really well. Nowadays, you need to spend a little bit more cash and get better quality links going to your tier 1 links, right? So the way that we encourage people to do, right, is that take that tier 1 link you have, make sure that you're optimizing it. So make sure it's actually got a title. It's got an actual, you know, a term that you're trying to rank it for. So actually have a strategy up front. Sounds like a lot of work, but trust me, this shit really works. So what you do is you have your tier 1, you then have your tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4. Now, your tier 3 and tier 4, you don't have to do. I still advise building it out because it looks more natural, right? But your tier 2 links should still be on sites that actually have traffic, that actually have authority, right? And then the way that you run it is that you should then be running a theme through the whole funnel. So the way that look at it, right, is, you know, in Facebook, how you have your top, middle, and then bottom of the funnel, right? The same logic should be done for link funnels. So what you're building is your first, like your tier 2 should be like a general concept. So I'll use a digital agency because it's the easiest way to do it, right? So take, for example, say I want to rank for social media services. My tier 2 link, right, would be about digital marketing in 2020, right? A part of that section would then be about social media services, right? I would then do a blog, which is my tier 1, about social media services or social media tools or something within that space, right? That would then link to a blog. The amount of idiots I see still link to money pages just blows my mind. But, I give it, it's still things that people want to do, right? But go from there to your blog, right? And then make sure the blog on your website is super relevant. Like it's actually ranking itself. Then do an internal link from there to your money page. Now, we've done shitloads of testing on this, and we also work with a lot of agencies doing testing on this. I kid you not, it is so powerful. It is just crazy because, your tier 1 links ranking, your blogs ranking, and then your money site, your money page or your service page then ranks, and it looks natural.
Mm-hmm.
I would love a Google spam wanker to come in there and tell me that doesn't look natural, right? Because the links are contextual. They have sense, not in the sense that the context of the actual individual anchor makes sense in a sentence, but it actually makes sense for the whole goddamn blog. Because a lot of people don't do that. They try and get like a blog about maybe SEO, but then it links about social media services. It doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
The whole blog itself needs to be about that. And then it comes back to theme link building. So making sure as you're going through that flow that you have things like your keyword is in the title of the blog. And that should be in the title of the blog multiple times along the funnel, right? And it should also be about like your H1 is there. And the biggest thing is, making it look really engaged. Like I've even got some clients, especially in the affiliate space, I love them because they show you things that no one does because it's worth it to them, right? We've got guys now, especially who really love doing the supporting links from the website they've got the guest posts from. So say you're tier 1, you would have 3 or 4 individual links from external pages that already rank, linking to the new article. Because that's what a legitimate publisher would do, right? Again, it means that they're saying, hey, I'm not trying to hide this article that I've been paid for. I'm actually proudly saying that, yeah, that's fine. I actually think that makes sense and it's a good piece of article, right? They then also do things, I kid you not, we've got one guy who sits there, he puts social shares onto the post and he also even puts comments onto it. So he's actually paying people to do both, right? But it looks really natural. Yeah. And it makes sure that it's not cheap, nasty things. I think a lot of things that people do in SEO is they try to take a good concept and then bastardize it, and then we spam it, and then it's like Google's like, wow, that's clearly I can see that, right? But if you actually keep it logical and actually keep it natural, it's going to rank, it's going to look real, and Google's never going to pick it up. I love the people that sit there and say, oh, if you do guest posting, you're going to get penalized. Well, I can tell you now, my whole website's run on guest posting and we rank really well for everything. So I don't really care. I think it's about like, Google's not going to manually check everything, right? They don't have enough people. And I think it's about making your stuff look as natural as possible. Like, if every single link is exactly the same and it goes to a service page and it looks like a pattern, of course you're going to get flagged. Yeah. But do you know what? I think a lot of our stuff that we've built, even for our own website and our testing websites, they look natural. And that's what you should be doing. That's what a lot of people forget. Like, don't think about it from an SEO perspective. Think about it from a user perspective. If the user's getting benefit out of it, then that makes sense. And Google's not going to penalize you. Yeah.
And is this something that you guys are going to offer as a done for you service, or are you just kind of like informing your customers about it? And then, and so for example, we use your marketplace. If we were to set this up, what would you recommend for like tier 1 versus tier 2 versus tier 3, like types of links in terms of like price ranging and I guess quality too?
Yeah, definitely. So I think tier 1, you should always be going out higher. Like everyone should be, because I'll explain the reason for that. So anything under like $50 in the marketplace, right? Everyone's buying it. And it's usually spammed. If you can't see it when you're reviewing the website, it's most likely getting spammed to some degree, right? If we've picked it up, other link builders have picked it up, especially in, the Indian companies out there who are selling SEO for like $200 or $300 a month, right? That's how they're building links the same way as all of us, right? It's just cheaper for them because labor is cheaper over there, right? So I think that where a lot of people go wrong is that they think that they have this price point in their head that they have to hit. And I get that because from a perspective of your budgets with your clients, you need to hit a certain price point. What I suggest to people is never tell a client how many links you're going to build. Tell them what the link budget is. So a lot of people always focus on, hey, we're going to build 30 links this month. I actually suggest to people, try and actually say, we're going to spend this much money on links so that we can get better quality links. So my tier 1 links, I usually range, even with our broker fee, I range between that $200 and $300 mark. But, you know, I still get good sites that are about $150 total, right? But I think where people get into that danger zone is when you're sitting around that $30 for placement. So $30 plus our management fee, right?
Yes.
That's just, you're really playing with fire there, because that person's probably selling 100 links a week. You know, we had a publisher last week who told me that they couldn't do business with me because they just did a deal with another large link builder. I won't burn them here. And they said, I'm going to guarantee you 400 links a month, right? And the guy's like, you have to match that or I can't do work with you. I'm like, I'm removing you now from our database because you're going to burn yourself in literally 2 months, right?
Yeah.
So if you're cheap and it has a high DR, don't touch it. I really stress people not to touch it because it's usually got so much content going in there that the link's probably useless. Your tier 2 links, you should be looking at that, maybe that $50 to $100 range. So tier 1, I'd be looking at that $150 to $200 mark, but it depends on the niche. You know, if you're in CBD oil, you're going to be going up to $300 to $400. You know, affiliates love that niche at the moment. And, you know, it's just a space like that. The other one that a lot of people don't talk about is sleeping and health.
Mm-hmm.
So mattress companies, that niche is just insane. We have people who spend thousands of dollars on links in that space. It's because I guess it's good commission. If there's ever good commission, link price goes up in that niche. It's just a guarantee because there's more money flowing in, right?
You guys would actually be a good source of information if someone is looking to become an affiliate of what to stay out of, right? I mean, if you're an affiliate, you have to be a monster at SEO. That's the only way you make money. So,
it's a crazy space, and you know, it's funny because we don't do people's link building. We don't tell people how to do SEO, right? So it's fantastic for us because we literally see every month thousands of SEOs tell us their secret sauce, right? We don't tell anyone who they are. We don't take those concepts. What we do is we look at what actually makes sense and what helps, and then we actually try and improve that with our offering. So if someone, for example, people really want these supporting links, that's come from a lot of affiliates, right? So now we're integrating that into the marketplace so everyone can do that, right? Because it's not like I'm stealing someone's secret sauce to some degree because it's SEO. No one really knows what's the right and wrong answer, right? But what we're trying to do is we're trying to then give other people ideas and concepts that haven't been talked about. Because the thing is, why would an affiliate tell anyone else how to do it, right? Because then they're giving away their secrets to some degree, right? But the way we look at it is that if we could improve everyone and we're not spamming the internet, it's a benefit. So going back to your original question, so tier 2, you know, you can probably drop it down to that $50 to $100 range. Tier 3, that's where you can kind of go for your $30 links. So 30 plus your whatever fee it is. I really try and stress not to go down that road of PBNs because I just don't think it's a good space to be in, even for your multiple tiers. I know a lot of people do it and we can disagree all day on that. That's cool. But I think it's just about your long-term longevity and also being respectful to someone who's a supplier to you as well. So I think a lot of people forget that about that, the publisher at the end. So, yeah.
All right. And I mean, we've obviously been talking a lot about buying links and also too, for people watching this, again, people assume that I'm a straight white hat link builder, which I am, but like the way that I see it, just for context, is what I tell people in the Blueprint all the time, is that the main reason why we made the shift to majority using you guys for link building was because you guys are basically doing the prospecting for us, right? And when I look at the prospecting we're doing versus the prospecting you're doing and the links that we're getting, they're the same, if not better. And again, you're doing all the work for us. We're just paying the cost. It's a business decision is what it is, right? You know, the only difference is, and this is, leads right into my question, is that, you know, we just launched a WordPress plugin. Every time I launch a new company, I'm very careful to do like very detailed manual prospecting, one-to-one outreach to get some really good links coming in, right? So like when the blueprint came out, we were basically just going after anyone who was talking about the best SEO training courses. Like we had to be on that website. And when you kind of take a step back and you ask yourself, like, what is it that I can do to put myself on this website? Outreach becomes a lot easier. And we're doing the same thing with our software company that we're launching. But I mean, do you have any recommendations? Do you think it's a good idea for people to just use a marketplace like yourself for all their links? Or do you think that they should be doing some sort of supplemental link building as well? And if so, like what would you recommend that people do?
Oh yeah, God, yes. We always have conversations with clients and especially agencies that they should be mixing up how they're getting their links. We only have a set selection of publishers we have access to, right? I'm a big believer that people should still be doing this concept around actually doing manual outreach for PR, like digital PR, and, helping a reporter and really getting out there and building relationships with influencers as well. Like that's the thing you have to do in a niche, right? The way that we help that is that we're that fallback if your team can't get that link that month. So, a good way that some of the really large agencies work with us, we've got an agency who builds 17,000 links a month, right? And they can't give us all of that because we would literally burn our network and I don't want it, right? But what they do is they use us for their higher spend clients who they might have an urgent matter that they just can't, they're not getting a good press that month, or there's something else going on in the mix, right? So we come in, we deliver within 2 to 3 weeks and they know it's going to happen, right? So I always suggest, mixing it up. I think also doing some natural good on-site can actually earn you links. I know a lot of people sit there and say, Google says I shouldn't do link building and it should just naturally happen, which is a load of shit, right? But if you actually build good content, right, you will naturally get links eventually once you've built links that you've bought or you've outreach for, right? And I think a really good technique that we've used ourselves, and I know a lot of our bigger clients do, is that they actually build really good statistic pages. So what they do, right, is that most journals in the world are not indexed on Google. So what you do is, and this is a really good tip, is you take a journal, you take the data out of it, you take the nuggets out of the journal, right? And then you write a blog about it, right? Now, when someone goes to look for that data, they need to be able to back that up with someone and with a source. Now, if your website's got at least a little bit of reputation, right, and you give good data and you back it up with links to then where the journal is, then someone's going to link to you naturally to say, hey, these guys talked about this blog because they were talking about this particular issue. And by doing that, you're going to build links naturally. So I always advise, you're doing it from a 3 perspective. You're doing it digital PR, you're doing 4. So you're doing manual outreach yourself, especially if the client's got the budget. You're then doing, a marketplace like us, of course, because I need clients to pay for my food and stuff. And then, of course, the last one is doing good content on your site yourself. Looking at things like what Brian Dean's done with doing Skyscraper and all that kind of stuff, it does work. The issue is that I think everyone needs to remember, right, when a technique becomes popular, everyone does it. Mm-hmm. And when everyone does it, publishers get pissed off. I was talking to a publisher last week. They're like, I hate Brian Dean because he told everyone to do this awesome technique. He's like, so now every time I link to a good piece of content, I get 30 emails a week asking to link to a better piece of content. And it's like, I think people forget that that's actually someone's time. They have to go in and change that link, right? And that's why publishers charge for it. And I don't think they're even charging for it because I think it's a money source. I actually think you get some publishers that are like, I don't want to give up my time for free. Would you? Like, that's like asking your plumber to come to your house. But hey, my house is warm and I gave you a cup of tea. Can't you just fix the pipe for free? I'm like, no, you're going to tell them to get fucked, aren't you? Yeah. Right? And I think that's the same thing. I think a lot of people forget these people are also running a business and trying to make money and a living too.
Definitely. So we got about 10 minutes left. Again, I know you guys are doing a lot of testing. Is there anything else? I mean, what would you tell people right now in like what's working in link building right now? Based on your test, you don't have to get specific if there's stuff that you don't want to share. If there's anything you want to share, of course, go ahead. But like what's working in link building right now?
Look, I think less is better. And I really think that there's this technique out there at the moment that because there's budget, I need to spend it. And, you know, I think that people are forgetting the fundamentals of SEO. And I think if you don't do those fundamentals, like making sure like, not going out there and actually building links for just the sake of building links, like actually have a meaning behind that link. I think that's really important because, you know, especially with what's going on with Google over the last few weeks, you know, we're seeing a lot of sites now that are getting de-indexed pretty much. You know, a lot of their pages now when they produce it aren't getting indexed. And I think a lot of people think that's a bug. It's not a bug. Google's just not indexing shit, which is, that changes the game a little bit, right? So if you're building links for the sake of building links, that's not a good outcome. If you're building links to try and gain a ranking, that's a good thing. And I know that some people are like, but you're a link building company. Shouldn't I always want to build links? Well, no, I want you to get rankings because if you make money, I make money, right? Yeah. So I think building links for the sake of it is really not a good idea. Another really cool concept that we've been testing at the moment, which I'm really happy with, is building out smart logical EAT. So I know I keep talking about EAT and I kind of hate it, but the fundamentals I think about EAT that a lot of people don't talk about, right, is that you should be building authority by building someone's brand, right? And the way that you do that is don't go out there and build links and then kind of mention someone's name. That doesn't build authority, right? What we've found is still build do a guest post, and you can actually do this in the marketplace. So still build a guest post, right? But add a bio onto the end of it, right? In that bio, make the bio link a no follow, but then link that bio link back to your author page, right? Now, what we've found is that this is then building authority of the author on your website. So a lot of companies don't build out author pages, which I highly suggest you should. And those author pages should literally have your image. It should have your LinkedIn profile. It should have things that make you like trustworthy stuff, right? Once you build links to that author page should then also list all the blogs they've written on your website. So a really good, something that's come up really, I guess, interesting in the last 6 weeks is that if you look at a lot of the tabloids and a lot of like Daily Mail and shit, they're getting hammered because they're producing shit. But what a lot of people aren't talking about, right, is that they have a high turnover of journalists, right? Now, if you bring in a noob who doesn't know anything about journalism, who's writing articles because they're getting paid to write 20,000 words a week, right, they're going to produce shit because they're stealing it from someone else, right? Mm-hmm. They have no authority, right? And usually their turnover of staff is so high that then what's happening is that there's no authority with the articles they're building. So what my suggestion too is, don't do EAT and be like you shouldn't build links and all those other people out there, but build EAT in the sense of build authority, build trust, and build expertise by actually showing proof that you are an expert. And if you're not an expert, get an expert in to help you, right? It's this concept that everyone's kind of stingy. They don't want to pay the money. But if you've got $100,000 a month, go spend 20 grand getting someone to come in and actually put their name on your website as an author. And that is the shit that people aren't talking about at the moment. And I know that's kind of like a hybrid between link building and on-site, but they're really super important at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, look, I look at it as I actually don't think that anyone should be buying $100,000 worth of links a month. I think that if you feel like your site is that link deficient, that you're better off trying to put that money into going and hiring like a viral PR company, somebody who can go out there and actually get something to go viral, and you can actually get 100,000 links from syndicated news sites. You know what I mean? Like that to me is what you should be doing with it. It's just a bad business. Links are important, very important. They have been as long as I've been doing SEO, and will continue to be for the foreseeable future. But you just have to, I mean, you have to know what you're doing, right? I mean, just being like links are important, I have a budget it's a bad business decision to me to just kind of dump it all onto that. And there's just so much other things that you could be doing from a business point of view. Like, I don't care if you already have an advertising budget, like you're still better spending that on advertising. Like if the end goal is not to get links, it's to get our organic traffic, and organic traffic is to drive customer sales, engagement, followers, all that stuff. If that's your goal, the business goals, you shouldn't be saying, well, we have this money, let's spend it on it. You should be saying, well, we should be spending this on better initiatives. You know what I'm saying? It's just my 2 cents, not that it matters or anything. But anyways,
I totally agree.
anyways, cool, man. I mean, so you got anything else?
No, I think that's all. I really think, just recapping, don't spend 100,000 on links. I'd love the 100,000, but it's not worth it. And I think just be smart about it, be natural. Don't be a dick about it as well when you're doing it. Have some ethics as well. I think a lot of people need to think about that a little bit. But yeah, just really try and focus on building quality and having quality on your site too. Like, what's the point of linking to something that's not good itself? You know, don't do SEO for SEO purposes. Do SEO to help the user have a better user experience.
For sure.
So, yeah.
All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you joining us. You're on the other side of the world. I don't even know what time it is over there. It looks like it's morning.
Literally the sun's been coming up behind me as we've been going. So it's good. Yeah, it's like 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's a good time.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you making the time. We all appreciate it. You shared a lot of valuable information. We're all very appreciative. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, definitely. So LinkedIn. The other option is nobs.link. So knobs.link. Or you can hit me up. I'm in Blueprint as well. So if anyone wants to talk to me, I'm in there as well.
Awesome. All right, Aaron. Thank you, man. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for that.
Take care, brother.